opinion on the pregnant woman who was in pain being checked in and the white nurse who clearly did not care and actually enjoyed torturing her. That whole situation is indicative of the medical racism that black people and especially black women face. And why do I say especially black women? Because if you look at any study, you'll know that the maternal mortality rates are very high for black women, and we are more than likely to be in danger when we give birth. Now, that is very, very telling that this woman, and that we all know that maternal mortality rates for black women are very high, but yet this woman watched as this woman was clearly in a lot of pain and did not think anything about her safety, did not care anything about her pain, did not care anything about servicing a woman and making her as comfortable as possible, which is what nurses are supposed to do in every way. She did not care. She just said, you know, whatever. She was actually enjoying watching this woman in pain. The racism was clearly on display because we all know that she would never have let a white mother or anybody else endure that much pain while they were sitting there. You would think that the general nature of a person who is a nurse is to provide comfort, to give care. She did not do that. She acted like that woman was not even there. Like, this computer and whatever it is I'm typing is more important, and my conversation with my coworkers is more important than this obvious pain of this woman who was in distress. As a woman who almost unalived during a pregnancy, it is very, very angering to see what that woman did to her. And I will be the first to say that there's a lot of racists in the world who have jobs where they can control whether or not you receive care, and they will on the sly use the system to harm black people. And that to me is what I was looking at. A woman who was very clearly enjoying her ability to harm a black woman. You also have people who still believe in eugenics, who believe that our people shouldn't be born, and a lot of them are very, very resentful that black women have the nerve to give birth at all. They hate the idea that more black people are coming into the world and are being produced. And to me, it seems like a concerted effort. I know it's a conspiracy theory, but it just makes no sense to me why the black maternal mortality rates are so high and nothing is being done, and someone would actively watch a woman in distress when it could be a medical complication. Yes, it's a big conspiracy theory, but that's what I believe. Some of them really would like to see a lot of us unalive during our pregnancy and the child at the same time. So please, I know, conspiracy theory, but it is what it is. So please, ladies and gentlemen, if you can, if they're where you live, always have black doctors. Always know who's associated with the hospitals, because some of them don't have privileges at every hospital. Try to get people who look like you to be your medical providers, okay? Because, you know, you may be in better hands, and you're not going to avoid nurses of all stripes, but you may be in better hands when you know that the hospital, your doctor, will say, hey, I got you. But yeah, advocate for yourself. That's all.
We are moving into the psychotic break stage for racist white America. And I'm not trying to exaggerate. I genuinely think a lot of these people see their realities falling apart. They're not seeing the rewards that they were supposed to get from who they put in the White House. And it's causing them to lash out in every other area of life. The nurse in the hospital in Dallas, Texas, that's somebody who's lashing out. I am willing to bet any amount of money we all know who she voted for. And if she did, she's not happy. And she thought that he was going to be taking his frustration out on our community, but that ain't happening either. So she's gonna do it. That officer at the football game, the officer who went out of his way to go and harass those football players in the middle of their game. Do you guys understand? There are so many football games that are played in this country. Thousands upon thousands of football games are played in this country at every level. Whether your team is winning or losing, people do not get that emotionally invested, especially law enforcement. They do not feel bold enough to do what that man did. But I'm telling you, this is a symptom of a larger issue. I believe, in my personal opinion, these people are moving closer to the psychotic break stage. All this time, they have been convinced the racism will win out. The supremacy that they are entitled to will win out. And the truth is, it's just not gonna happen. It's not. When this is all said and done, none of the promises that were made will be promises that were kept. And as we transition out of the MAGA era, out of the era where they genuinely believed that they were going to reclaim this country in whatever vision they had for it, this will lead to psychotic breaks, all right? The mental health issue that's going to come post-MAGA is going to be, we're not even going to be able to understand how deep this was for a lot of people, because their entire identities were wrapped up in the success of the era that we're in now. But unfortunately, there will be no success, and they will realize that they have hitched their wagon to something that was doomed from the beginning. But instead of accepting that, they will lash out like they always do. And we're seeing the beginning stages of that right now.
Read this. That's her. One story that she has shared is that she had an interaction with a white nurse who referred a Black newly postpartum mother for a psychiatric consultation, which is an evaluation by a psychiatrist, based on what she, the white nurse, deemed to be concerning behavior, which was this. The patient tapping herself or hitting herself on the head. Miss McElroy was able to intercept that and say, actually, that's a really normal thing that Black women might do to address itching on their scalp when they don't want to interfere with a particular hairstyle. There are many, many layers to this. I don't know that nurse. She may have had no ill intent. Referring someone for a psychiatric evaluation is a really big deal. We know, based on studies, that Black folks are more likely, I think it's about 2.5 times more likely than white folks, to have negative things written about them in their medical files, meaning they're more likely to be presented as aggressive, non-compliant, rude, combative. So there's a couple layers here of how does a doctor who's read the file treat a patient going into that when they believe that they're going to have a combative patient, and also how does a patient feel, or how do people as in general feel when they think or know they might go to the doctor and get an automatic negative response because someone has already written things about them in their file to make them appear combative or negative or difficult to work with. There's also another component of this nurse not having the skill or ability or comfort level to just go to the patient and say, hey, we noticed you've been doing this. What's going on? Anything we can do to help? There's no delicate way to say this. I really think that white Americans have dehumanized people of color in this country so much and for so long that basic human decency when it comes to social interactions goes out the window. I believe pretty firmly that white Americans are afraid of, in particular, Black bodies, Black children, Black men, Black women. And it plays out in interactions like this one. The idea that this white nurse could have seemingly harmlessly set off an entire domino effect for this Black woman based on just not understanding what she was doing and not even having the skills to ask a question is really terrifying. This is connected to a video I did a while ago about the language we use about students and IEPs. We dehumanized people of color in this country to justify the way we treated them, and we are so deep in that it's almost like undoable at this point, and the damage continues to happen.
This is why we keep saying that racism is not a personal project, but has detrimental effects on everyday lives of people. I don't know how else to introduce this topic, but I'm just going to show you the article. Sorry. A NICU nurse named Erin Strothman was arrested and now faces accusations that she intentionally broke the bones of Black babies in the NICU. This story, reported by the Washington Post, said the concerns about Strothman allegedly started 2 years ago in 2023 when doctors and personnel started noticing unexplained injuries in the newborns in their neonatal intensive care unit. Now the hospital says it's reviewing hundreds of hours of surveillance, reviewing the cases of these 7 infants. This entire case was reopened due to the work of Dominic Hackey and his family, whose twin boys were born 28 weeks premature. One of those babies had a weird fracture in his leg. Hackey's mother, who happens to be a NICU nurse, found that wound suspicious and called Child Protective Services. But even after a full year of investigation, no suspects were found. During Strothman's arraignment, it was found out that one of the babies suffered 12 fractures. 12 fractures. And yes, while fractures do happen in the birthing process, medical experts can sound off, but there's a big difference between the fractures that typically happen during birth and fractures that this child had inflicted upon them. At this point, we've only gotten to the arrest of Aaron Strothman, and all of these allegations are still just that, allegations. If this is true, this is just a further point to undergird how dangerous, how detrimental, how horrid racism can be for the Black community. There are few beings more vulnerable than a newborn baby, and the lack of care and the monstrous need to inflict undue pain upon these vulnerable beings, if it's due to racism, there's no words. There's no words. And these are the people who are in our medical profession, the people who are supposed to be taking care of us and are most vulnerable.
Someone said that white nurses are to Black women what white cops are to Black men. And I do think it's true, because when you look at how white nurses and white doctors usually treat Black women, it is ghostly and it is very demonic. To see someone in pain and actually not feel anything, actually continue with the rest of your life like nothing is happening right in front of your eyes, is scary to me. Because we all know that Black women are at a higher risk than white women when they are giving birth. They are at their most vulnerable. So for you to take advantage of that in the name of white supremacy or white systematic racism is crazy, because that is one of the most diabolical times to use when life is coming into this life. When life is coming like it's being created, one wants to give birth to their child, to their offspring. They want to continue their legacy. That is a time that should be beautiful and amazing. You are making it as a traumatic event for Black women. You are literally fighting with people who don't think about you. You are fighting a battle when you're the only ones who are at the playing field. Black women are not even around. They're not there because they're busy minding their business. They have way too many things to think about rather than have silly games and silly pointless discussions about racism, things that should have ended years ago. I don't know why it's still something to talk about, like common decency and actually doing your job. It is very, very scary. But before I give my full commentary, let's dive in, listen to what other Black women and Black men have to say about this. Then we'll come back and talk about it. See you shortly.
So I just saw the video of the Black mother in active labor. She said the baby was in her ass, sitting in the emergency room, and a white nurse, cunty bitch, act like her pain was nothing. Like she was just there for a minor scrape, burn, cut. I'm gonna say this, and I need this not to go over your head. White women in healthcare are to Black women what white men in law enforcement are to Black men. I'm gonna say it one more time. White women in healthcare are to Black women what white men in law enforcement are to Black men. They say this ain't the first time this nurse done cut up like this when it come to us. When Michael Jackson said they don't give a fuck about us, that was a word. They don't give a fuck about us. Every time you interact with them, I need you to have that in the back of your mind. They don't give a fuck about you. At any time, in any way that they can use their power, their dominance over you, they will. They will. They say the nurse name is Rebecca James.
By now, everybody's seen the videos of the Black woman in labor having the baby in the triage area, what looks to be the triage area, and another video perhaps you've seen where a woman's husband had to deliver her baby in the truck after she was basically evicted, rejected out of the ER because she had not was not deemed to be appropriate, her cervix had not dilated enough. So these things do not happen in a vacuum, and we might be out here celebrating, putting videos up about the one nurse who got fired. Yay, she got fired. It doesn't matter. It does not change a thing, because these are systemic issues of racism, medical racism, that are allowed to happen. Nobody is in an ER alone. There is no such thing as a one RN, one staff member ER. There are tons of staff. There are doctors, providers, nurse practitioners, other nurses, security personnel, clinical techs. There are any number of radiology techs coming and going. There are admitting staff and personnel there. There are plenty of people around who also ignored this woman and said nothing and did nothing, because it was allowed to happen systemically. And it's very hard for us often to think, how can we affect change? But it is important we do affect change as a group, because firing one person, celebrating the termination of one nurse, does nothing to change the whole system as a whole, and to actually impact change in those hospitals where obviously there is medical racism that's been allowed. Because in a hospital or any facility organization where there are standards about behavior and about bias, those kind of behaviors are super outliers. I work for an organization like that. It is extremely an outlier situation. Firing a nurse is just a knee-jerk liability reaction to the hospital to avoid a lawsuit and say, hey, we got rid of this bad seed. Well, you allowed and fostered the bad seed. And trust me, the bad seeds are out there committing all kinds of atrocities to people based on bias, whether it's homophobia, transphobia, misogyny, racism, ethnocentrism, whatever it may be, they are there doing that. So don't be fooled, and don't be gullible to that, quick dopamine hit of, oh yeah, they fired her, right? That's just a gang mentality, and it really does nothing to advance the cause of addressing the issue, the root cause here of medical racism. So I want to just leave that with you guys to think about, and how we as nurses, how we as healthcare professionals, we as members of the community, and we as allies can affect change as a group. Because there's a lot we have power over. So let's just think about that and put our heads together about this.
Okay, so it is not normal to hear a person scream and then feel nothing. That's literally not how your brain is supposed to work. Whether the person is screaming out of fear or pain, this is an evolutionary thing to warn other humans to either protect the human or to get away from danger. It comes pre-installed at birth for the noise of someone screaming to immediately send you into fight or flight. When you're born screaming and crying and pissing and shitting because it activates your mom being like, oh shit, I have to protect this thing. It activates everyone around you like, oh shit, I have to protect this thing. It is literally supposed to activate very important parts of your brain. So when you work at a hospital where you hear that a lot and you stop having that reaction, you have a problem. Medical desensitization kills people because it literally removes your sense of urgency when someone is doing the most basic evolutionary thing to tell you that something is wrong. And guess who that kills the most?
Y'all, one thing that trauma has taught me is that if you're quiet about your pain, they'll kill you and say you enjoyed it. That's Zora, right? That's also a revisionist history that a lot of predators use. Because one thing's for certain and two things for sure. Predators are banking on your silence, right? It doesn't matter if they are emotionally abusive, physically abusive, financially, etc. They demand the silence of their victims, the people that they have injured, in order for them to grow into bigger monsters. And the interesting thing is that it's not just the victims, the direct recipient of their violence, but it's the bystanders, the community. And so, yeah, this is my first story time. I want to say this is for parents, caregivers of children, teachers, school administrators, anybody who cares about children, anybody who cares about Black people. So if you deem yourself an ally, this is for you. I want to give a content warning, right? I'm talking about child abuse by school personnel. I'm talking about racism. And I'm also talking about healing and recovery. Like any other parent, when you're sending your child to school, you are looking for the safest place that's going to teach them and challenge their critical thinking and develop their social-emotional skills. And that's what I did when I chose Abington Friends School. However, I knew, you can't outrun racism, right? It's a PWI. And so I anticipated racial blind spots. What I didn't anticipate was racial trauma. And that's what I got. My daughter told her teacher that she was sick, and so she sent her to see Susan. Susan was a white nurse at Abington Friends School. She's like 50s, 60s. I'm being gracious. Susan told her to use the bathroom. She did. She flushed the toilet, washed her hands, grabbed a paper towel, dried her hands, tossed a paper towel in the toilet accidentally because the trash can was right next to it. And then she exited and told Susan that she had accidentally put a paper towel in the toilet. Susan, this white woman, took her hood off, right? And showed everyone who she really was. And what she did to my child is quite unthinkable. I'm tapping. She walked her to that bathroom, forced her to get on her knees and dig in that toilet. That soiled, dirty toilet with dried fecal matter and urine. Made her push her hand into the toilet to remove the paper towel. And I know a lot of you will say, but why did she do that? Maybe she thought the pipes couldn't take it. I was going to say something unkind. Keep scrolling. Because you are as big of a racist as Susan and many of those folks at Abington Friends School. There is no reason that a child would an adult would force a child to dig in a toilet, but to dehumanize them, but to abuse them, but to violate them. And why would she want to do that to this child? My child is easy. She's easy like Sunday morning, objectively and subjectively. That's what her reports say, right? She's gentle. They delight over having her in her class. She's the kid that the teachers will put the most rambunctious child next to because they know my child is going to ignore them and get the work done. She is the child that greets the new student who is visiting for the day. She's easy. She's cooperative. She's light, right? If you have listened to my podcast, you've heard me talk about this beautiful being, right? Her name means bright light born free. But the truth is that you'll never be able to outrun racism because that's what structural racism is. It greets you in the morning before you even get to the door. And it showed up numerous times at AFS, right? And you ask, why would she do this? Because that was a message to me. They dehumanized my child. They violated her. They abused her. They humiliated her because they wanted me to feel those things. Why? Because I created an affinity group. I created Black community there and they hated it. Right? Because not only were we, experiencing moments of Black joy and creating resources for students, right? But we were also sharing our struggles with racism and elevating those. And they did not want to hear it because they are not invested in changing, right? Their response to all of this is, it wasn't racist. This is what Rich, he's the head of school. This is what he said to me. This was not an act of racism. Okay, let's take race out. It is an act of abuse. And the way they handled this was removing Susan, not as a consequence, not as a punitive action, but why? To protect her. So that nobody knew what happened. They did everything they could to silence me, right? Abington Friends School and Abington Meeting House. Rich received dozens of emails from random folks and folks within the school asking for an investigation, asking for a town hall, never responded to them. Rich created an environment where staff there thought it was okay to harm us, right? Mikhail Israel is the DI, or Director of Equity Engagement, Diversity, Inclusion, all that, whatever it is. But he added engagement is my point. And he admitted that he went out of his way not to speak to my daughter. This tiny little 7-year-old would never speak to her. And he said it was because he thought his relationship with me was beyond repair. Who does that? Abusive people do that, right? In the meeting, when he said this in front of other parents and Rich, his boss, Rich sanctioned it. I said, are you hearing this? There was no correction. Rich said, yes, I'm hearing this. No correction. No, he completely sanctioned it, which is what led to my child being abused. And then from there, they continued to target me and my child to the point where I'm in a meeting with Andrea, and Andrea's she's like the principal of lower school. And I'm talking with another teacher, Felix, this guy who created a secret group, right? And tries to like excuse it because he calls it a pilot. He created a secret group, refused to allow my daughter to participate. And Andrea becomes very histrionic like, right? She's impulsive. She's antagonistic. She is dysregulated to the max. And then she attempts to physically put her hands on me when she abruptly ends the meeting. You'll never outrun racism. That's my point. Recover your joy. Create a village. That is the one thing that I got from this school. Find your people, because they are going to stand with you. They are going to protect you, and they are going to help you heal. This will never be dismantled, right? It won't be my labor, that's for sure. But what I will accept is reclaiming my dignity, reclaiming my value, reclaiming my wholeness.
The microaggressions in healthcare are getting serious. Let's talk about it. I worked in the ER the other day as charge. I was running the unit, coordinating staff, and making sure everything was running smoothly. In the middle of the chaos, a physician walked up and said he needed the charge. I looked at him and said, that's me. I'm charged today. So he looked right past me, turned to one of my white colleagues and said, so who is actually in charge tonight? My colleague had to point back at me and told him, she is in charge tonight. The look on his face just screams, I don't look like leadership. That's one of many kind of microaggressions Black nurses deal with. It's subtle, but the message is loud. But here is the truth. I am leadership. I earned this role, and there's nothing you can do about it. And no amount of doubt or dismissal is going to change that. So now I want to ask you, what kind of microaggressions have you faced as a Black person? Type your stories below. I'm interested.
Someone said that white people, white nurses, white cops, white everyone in America are acting the way they're acting because they are angry at Trump. They are angry at the administration that they chose. They chose an administration that they thought was going to work for them, like every other administration. And yet they came to find out, oh, it's actually not working like that. They voted in a white person who they thought will actually continue to do what the other presidents have done and make sure their life is as much easier as any other people. Like they are living life out of their own privilege. Like they are not going through whatever every other people of color are going through. And what they don't realize is whatever you're doing to Black people right now, from whatever point of service that you have to give to Black people, and instead of giving that to them, you're being rude and you're being a nightmare to even work with or associate with. You're not realizing that Trump is literally doing the same thing. You guys are no different, because what Trump is doing is he is seeking revenge on white people, Black people, and every other American person in America, living in America. He is literally seeking revenge for you guys not voting him in, and also for him impeaching him from his presidential seat and actually making sure that he actually comes out of that seat. So the moment that you give him a chance to come back, he said and he made sure that he was going to make you guys suffer, because he cannot be voted in another time. This is his only time, so he is doing whatever is in his power to make sure that his revenge hurts. And now, instead of you guys working together with the black people, working together with, because you're the ones who chose this administration in the first place, you are removing that anger and resentment towards black people, as if black people are the ones who made you choose whatever you chose. You not getting what you wanted and pulling all the strings to make sure that black people's lives are harder is not working for anyone. It is literally making you a more difficult and an angrier person. You are literally becoming so dark inside you, because it doesn't make sense that you're fighting someone who warned you not to vote for a certain person. And instead of fighting that person, the one who is literally making your life harder, you're fighting people who don't even think about you, people who don't care, people who are literally living in their own bubble. You are fighting with people who are not in the battlefield. You are fighting alone. It doesn't make any sense. If at the moment, I would like to think that if you want to put yourself through college or university and you want to study healthcare, you must at least have empathy. I will not understand why you will get into healthcare so that you can see people in pain and smile about it and continue to mind your business as someone is literally dying as you're seeing them and not care at all. And these people are literally protected by the systematic racism and the systems in America that have been built to make sure that black people do not succeed, do not prosper, and do not ever get justice. Because what that white nurse did to the black woman, the one who was on the laptop, I guess it was in Texas, what that white nurse did was not even punished. She was just given a leave, which was a paid leave, meaning she is in vacation at home living her best life, while a black woman could have easily died from that specific scenario. It does not make any sense that systematic racism, the same system that was used to be racist and to completely belittle black people hundreds of years ago, is still being used today in this time of age, because as one of the people said, firing medical staff is not enough, because there's a nurse, there's a pediatrician, there's a doctor. Yes, there are all kinds of doctors. There are dentists. There are X-ray people. There are people who perform anesthesia. There is a whole staff. Once you get into a theater or anywhere, you cannot find just one person who is going to operate on you. There are so many people who are there, and for a lady to come in and then be sent out, it means each and every other person in that room was complicit into that. How you firing one person does not remove that anger that those people have, that racism that those people have inside them. There has to be a system where these people are held accountable for what they are doing to black people, because it is not fair. The same way white cops get away with so many things, they kill and harass and completely go against the rules and regulations of what a cop should do. And they are literally, if they're found guilty of killing, they will literally be moved to another place, another city, another state, so that they can continue their racism in that other place, because the system has been made to make sure that these people do not suffer, that these people continue to treat black people and to make black people feel that they are less of. And I don't understand why people are so angry with black people giving birth. I don't understand, because this is a conversation I actually covered yesterday, and it was talking about how white people were talking about how black people don't realize what kinds of a life they would live if white people didn't actually exist. Like, it would be such a terrible life. And the question is, like, unless you've been living under a rock, most of the countries around the world are full of black people. Black people dominate way more than white people. White people are literally just in America and Europe, like those are and Asia. Those are the places where they are kind of they are dominating. But the rest of the world, most people are black. Most of the population is filled with black people. And you constantly attacking black people. You don't want black people to give birth, because in your heads you think that black people are giving birth so that they can raise their little armies or something. You're literally living in your own dreams. Like, wake up. Because Black people live rent-free in white people's minds, and it doesn't even make any sense. You are making black women suffer through and through. The women who are working in healthcare, black women who are working in healthcare, and black women who are patients of healthcare. There is literally no reason for you to treat a woman the way you guys treat them. We have literally seen people who are big racists towards black people, and they're still treated with dignity, they're still treated with humanity. And yet when the roles are reversed, you want to act like black people are this bad people and you want to get rid of them. It's like they're trying to come and get whatever you have, and it's not like that. Black people just want a place, the same place that you have. They want to be treated the same, the way you are treated. They want the system to change so that they can live peacefully and well in that country. It's not about you, it's about them. When they are fighting for their justice, when they are fighting for what they need and what they want from the country and from the system that is working in America, they are not fighting against you. They are fighting against the system that is suppressing them, the system that is allowing you to get away with the things that you're getting away with just because you're a white person. That is what they're fighting against. For you to not get away with things the way you have been getting away with. And if the roles were reversed, I think that is what maybe is so scary to white people. That's why they are constantly attacking black people, because they do not know a world where black people are actually dominating over them. They don't know a world where black people are the most successful. They're the ones who are leading the country. They're the ones who have more seats in parliament or any other place. They're the ones who have more seats in healthcare and in politics, and they don't know what will happen that day, because they have continuously made sure that the lives of black people is hell. So in their minds, they think that the more they make sure that these black people do not want to live in this country, they will not want to reproduce in this country, and some of them will actually leave. Some of them will go and start a life somewhere else that is not in America, and America will continue to be great. And it's such a sad way of thinking. Like, you people are literally living in the past. You're living in the past where slavery was accepted. You're living in a time where your minds are living in a time where dehumanization is normal, and that cannot fly right now. People are way more woke. People have technology. You also have technology. How about you Google a couple of things, find out a couple of things, instead of fighting people who have done nothing to you? You are the ones who are always posing a danger towards black people, and not even a good, like, from a point of care. You know, when you attack. You people just choose to attack even when people are just seated somewhere. We have seen so many white people attack maybe black people sitting in a park or walking. We have seen so many scenarios where white people do not want black people to rest. And now they have gotten to a point where they have the power to take away your life. And that is so scary. That is very, very scary, because everyone in this world needs healthcare. And yes, black people have the highest expectancy rate. Black women can reproduce over and over and over and over and over and over again. We know this. And I think to some extent, like, white people are kind of jealous of that, because maybe for them it's not as much. And they don't know, they feel like black people have this way of creating so many of their kids, and they will one day come and rule over America. Black people are not interested in that. They want a place, they want a seat at the table. They have done the work. They have made sure that your country is where it is today. Whether you like it or not, black people are engraved in the roots and in the foundation of what is called America right now. No matter how much you want to fight it, it is true. It is what it is. It just is what it is. Learn to live with those people. Unless you want to leave, then you can leave. You can leave. You're the ones who brought black people to your country, and now you want them to leave all of a sudden. They didn't ask to be brought to your country. You're the ones who brought them. So now you think they're going to leave just because you said so? No, they're going to stay. Most of them have been born in that country. They have built that country. They have made sure that they contribute to that country. So you telling them to leave is not going to pass. That is not what they're going to do. Okay, so learn how to live with black people. Stop being a threat to black women. Stop being a threat to black children. Stop constantly bringing this kind of pain and torture towards people who have literally not done anything to you. You look at history, you find that white people have been fighting with black people for the longest time, with no reason to do it. There's literally no reason for you guys to do what you do, but you do it. Just wake up and stop carrying the burdens of your ancestors, because they are the ones who lived in that time where certain things could pass. This is not the time anymore. And if I can tell you now, be on the right side of history, because black power is coming. Black power will come and it will rule. And once it rules, you better be on the correct side of history. That is all I have for you today. If you've learned something, kindly consider sharing, subscribing, and liking. I'd like to see you another time, so kindly make sure you come back. Also comment, what do you think about this particular topic? I'd like to interact with you in the comment section below, and I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.